what Pink came about.
For me, it's just like an electric jolt.
The real ugly side of humanity, and their music sounds like it.
I always wanted to be a band that was approachable to people, that was just regular ass people. Yo, what's up? So before I start this episode, I want to bring up two really good friends of mine that I've met along the way. They've been the backbone and really the biggest supporters of this podcast since day one. Everything visually you see with this podcast has been done by Wither Designs and Benny Bones Art, and it could be your band next. Check them out on social media, get yourself something unique and original, and yeah, let's do this.
So I don't know if you looked into anything about my podcast, but it's all metal bands.
Cool.
And I started to branch out into like the indie rock realm.
Uh-huh.
And it's kind of funny because your band was one of the first ones I found, and then I kind of got into this like rabbit hole of like not listening to metal and listening to more like indie stuff, which is really
right.
funny. So yeah, thanks for making good music. I don't know.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I noticed you. I noticed one of the episodes you interviewed someone from Full of Hell, and
oh shit, are you friends with them?
We spent I think his name's is it Sam, the bass player.
Sam.
Yeah, years ago we stayed with him in Ocean City, Maryland, on our first ever tour of the US, when we had a couple days off. So whenever I see him around, you know how it is. You cross paths at the most random times. Sometimes we always catch up and say what up. Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, I would assume, like, being in the California scene, like, you see a whole bunch of fucking faces all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of people coming through. It's one nice thing about living here for sure. It's and also being just one flight home if anything crazy happens is nice. Not having to do like multiple flights.
So, if you were told that coming to the United States, the only option was California, would you go anywhere else, or do you think the music scene is like perfect in California? Because I've heard mixed reviews about this, where people are like, oh, it's way too overpopulated. And then there's the opposite end where people are like, oh, California, like, it's still thriving. It's still doing great.
It's a good question. I think for me personally, I feel really at home here now. But in saying that, I didn't grow up in a city or anything like that. We can get into all of this when we want to kick it off. But yeah, I didn't grow up in a city, so I yearn sometimes for the quiet life, and I'd love to be able to do a bit of both, have a spot in LA and then spend most of my time out somewhere quiet. And be touring enough to like not miss city life, So hopefully in the next couple of years that'll be a reality. I'm trying to work towards it. But no, we're super lucky here. Like, Gibby, one of the guys from our label, is out here, so we see him quite a lot, and our manager's based here, and it just I think it just makes sense for us. I'm definitely more of a West Coast guy than an East Coast guy.
It seemed like a lot of your music videos, like, I'm not sure if that's where you're based. Like, it was very like country life. Is that where like the band is like around, or are you guys like in the city of California?
Oh, we're in Los Angeles. Yeah. Will and I, we live about a 5-minute drive, maybe less. Depends if there's a Dodgers game on, like there is today. But yeah, no, I think we're just drawn a lot to openness and open spaces when it comes to like the visual element of the band.
Right.
And trying to avoid the cliches and tropes of somewhat post-punk leaning music surrounded in cities and griminess, and I feel like we've already done that. So
yeah. I think the coolest thing about it is like you kind of based like the whole release, well, a lot of your releases on like, going on that trip out till the middle of nowhere, and then like the album cover had to do with it, and then the video had to do with it. It was very conceptual, whereas a lot of bands, they'll throw, like, at least metal bands, they'll put a drawing on it and then the video will be totally different from
Right.
what the artwork is.
Yeah, I think for Death Bells, the visual side of it is a huge deal. Will, who sings, he's a graphic designer, so he's
Okay.
very he kind of maps him and our friend Colin Fletcher. He's an incredible art director. They map everything out ahead of time, and I'm always happy with whatever they end up doing. So I'm kind of I just shake my head and nod my head and say yes to their ideas. And for the last LP, New Signs of Life, that cover actually was Lauren Bailey, who has a little imprint called Chaotic No Good, who she makes like incredible jewelry and puts out bands and does great t-shirt designs. She made the little tombstone type thing out of clay, and then Colin, Lauren, and Will were at the beach trying to shoot the album art, and one of them just dropped on the ground and it hit a rock and shattered, and then Colin was like, oh, that looks pretty cool, let's just use that. So that's kind of how that art originated, which wasn't exactly the plan, but turned out pretty cool.
So another thing that I noticed about your band is like the social media right now, at least Instagram, is very like vague. A lot of what you guys do is more like the visual video aspect of it. Like, for example, like there was like 5 or 6 music videos. And then social media is kind of vague. Do you feel like music nowadays, like the unknown is kind of lost? Like for example, bands nowadays, they have to be so active on social media where it's like every piece and part about the band.
I am in 100% agreement that the mystery is gone. If I had it my way, I wouldn't be posting anything. Just like looking back, even to I'm not a super old head, but just growing up, kind of when MySpace was semi on the way out, and then I think I was 17 or 18 when Instagram really started popping off. It was just a little different, and I enjoy keeping a little bit and keeping people guessing. I definitely personally love not flooding the algorithm, but hey, it's what you got to do these days to get any traction, I think. But yeah, I like the unknown. I like the mysteriousness sometimes, and I think that bands who can pull it off, and some bands not having social media, or some bands never posting, and then they just kind of appear out of the darkness and mesmerize and then disappear back into the darkness. I think that's really special, and we kind of go for a less is more approach, especially when there's not really, if you're in between your release cycles and you're not touring. I don't really know what we struggle sometimes to be like, what should we post about? We're not really, we're working on stuff always, but I feel like it's not relevant enough to share.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what do you think is like enough to share? Maybe like an actual album release, or like a music. Like the only thing I really saw was like an album release, like vinyl drops, and then like a music video.
Yeah.
And maybe like shows. But it wasn't like, hey, this is like behind the scenes shit.
Right.
Or just like random pictures of you guys hanging out, like, because a lot of bands do that.
Right. Yeah, and more power to them too. I'm not one to judge, but yeah, I think with that stuff, for me, it's more physical. Like, I've got a couple plans for the next LP to do some physical releases. Documenting some of the behind the scenes stuff that we haven't done before. And I'm a big fan of physical media still, so I think saving some of that for those opportunities and for it to be fresh, I think will be cool.
Right.
But yeah, that's a good notice. Good pickup.
That's good, because I was like, I hope I'm not super far off on this, but like you guys have a lot of like views on YouTube and stuff, and then social media, you guys are like, fuck it, dude. Like, we'll post once in a while. And I'm like, this is amazing to me because, like, I feel like a good majority of bands, like 90%, it's just like a post every like 2-3 days, week. And it's not, like you said, it's not a bad thing, but I don't know. Like, some of the musicians I've met over the years, um, I think it's kind of funny when you meet him and you're like, wow, this guy's a really nice dude, or like this guy's kind of a dick. But but it's all up to, you know, the actual interaction. And if everything's out there on social media, like, you would kind of figure that out really quick.
Right. Yeah.
No.
That's pretty astute. I
But
mean, hey,
uh
we might be doing it wrong.
no,
maybe
you're
we
doing
should, maybe we
fucking
should be
great.
posting more. But yeah, Will and I kind of, we're comfortable with how we're going about it, and I think also, like, it might be cliche of me to say, but trying to make the music speak for itself a little more.
No,
And we
that's a
do
good
put a
way
lot
to
of
put
effort
it.
into the visual side of the band, with the videos. And um, during COVID, we drove out to Bombay Beach, about 3 hours from LA, and did a remote live session there that we filmed with our good friend Travis Waddell, who's done a couple of videos for us now. And that was a lot of work, and it was hot, and instruments were going out of tune, and it was kind of crazy. But we thought
Yeah,
that,
it seemed like quite the production, man. I do video myself. I film often. Um, and I was like, holy shit, man, like, they mic'd everything up. It was outdoors. I could just imagine, like, the amount of factors that went into that video. Like, you got to work with the weather, you got to work with, you know, power issues, you got to work with, wind.
yeah,
How the fuck did you even how
yeah,
did you even pull it off to get a good recording is my
yeah, I
question.
can tell the story for sure. So we rented, so that area of California is very lawless. Bombay Beach is, the Salton Sea is an ecological disaster, unfortunately, and it's slowly evaporating and releasing a bunch of toxic chemicals, and the population's been dwindling out there for a long time. And the majority of people drawn out there these days are artists and people who are trying to escape. I think that would be an apt term. Escape
Yeah.
the reality of America. And yeah, we rented a generator from Home Depot and put it as far away as possible from the shoot, and just ran a bunch of extension cords. Andrew Oswald, he's an incredible engineer. He works at a studio called Paradise, where we have recorded the first LP on Deus, New Signs of Life, and the majority of the upcoming release. And he was playing bass for us for that session, and he was running between the mixing desk that he brought out there and making sure everything was okay. And then we would do a take, and then he would go and check it. And then I think we started at about 5 a.m. that day.
I was about to say, if you did that, it must have been an early day.
Yeah, it was early. It was really early, and then by the time we were wrapping, it was still the morning, but it was just getting too hot. Because out there, 110, 115, that's a regular summer's day.
Oh fuck, I forgot the temperature factor. Yeah.
But yeah, that side of the band, I feel like, we're extremely lucky, and we're extremely blessed to have so many friends who are down to do out their ideas and make stuff for the art rather than making stuff to have to churn out content.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm really thankful for everyone who's ever been involved in any of the visual side of the band, because we couldn't do it without our friends, in all honesty. Our ideas are too crazy, and we need crazy friends to help.
Yeah, I was just talking to, like, literally a friend that I'm going to do a video for. He was just talking about, like, finances of a band, somewhat of the popularity of you guys, where you guys have a following, but at the same time, like, having a friend just makes it so much easier, because, like, film crews are so fucking expensive nowadays, or any type of like crew, or going to the studio. It's just if you have a friend to record your music, that's like, a key to success, really.
It's really hard. It's really tough, and Will and I have kind of always operated Death Bells on the as lean, mean fighting machine as possible. With recording and just trying to get everything done the way that we've always done stuff with our backgrounds. I grew up going to hardcore shows in a town called Byron Bay in Australia, so famous for Parkway Drive and 50 Lions and a bunch of other bands in that type of scene. So I've always been around and very lucky to be around kind of the DIY culture back at home. And Will was the same in Sydney. And we've kind of just tried to keep that mantra as the band's gotten a little bigger and, there has been some type of budget so that we can make the most of it and not waste that money, because it's, like you were saying, it can go in one video, you can blow thousands and thousands of dollars. And it's tough to justify it these days, because while we do love making the visuals and it means a lot to us with the band, it's like, how much traction are we getting versus, when you do that, cross the X's and O's, it's like, is this worth spending a bunch of money on, or should we just, make something cool with our friends, like that, the new video for Life Spring. It's a one-shot continuous drone that Will was flying from the
with
start.
The bike, right?
What was that, sorry?
Was that the one with the bike?
Yeah. So
yeah, that's a fucking killer video, man.
Thank you. So the story behind that
is so simple, but it's just like,
yeah,
it's perfect, man.
Yeah, that was a Will Canning idea. So he thought it would be cool to just do a one-shot video, and because the night before, actually, we filmed another video that's coming out. It'll be out by the time this is released, I'm sure. A new song called Hysteria, which is more of a performance video. So we wanted to just get to Crackdown in one weekend. So we drove out to Paris and the Inland Empire, and we were just trying to scope a cool location, and we managed to find that, thankfully, because it turned out to be a really kind of beautiful scene. And Will bought the drone on Amazon the week before and was just practicing learning how to control it.
That's sick.
And then it may or may not have been returned back to Amazon after the video shoot was complete. Will not confirm nor deny those rumors. But yeah, we were just, we ran it a bunch of times and we got a take where we were like, hey, it's not 100% perfect, but it looks pretty cool. And there's a little Easter egg in that video too, if anyone watches it who's listening and takes a look. About halfway through the video, if you look to the left, there's two ATVs just screaming on another trail that kicks up all this really cool dust. And once we viewed the playback, and we didn't realize that when we shot that round of it, but once we looked at it, we were like, this is the one. Like, we can't not have it. It was kind of too perfect.
Yeah, without a doubt. So I mean, you were talking to me earlier. You seem like a very busy guy in your personal life, and I don't know how much in depth you want to go with this. I mean, this is totally private. But working like your day job and managing a band, how has this changed the way that you like approach music? I guess my question to you is, if you want to answer, is what is your like day job?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm lucky enough to still work in somewhat creative field. I do a lot of writing professionally. So whether that be copywriting or editing books, I was also speaking to you before. I've been editing podcasts as well previously, and yeah, it can be tough. And Will's the same. Will's an incredible graphic designer, and he's kind of like me, where we keep our professional lives, I guess, a little separate from the band. But if there's a shirt from an artist that's been in the charts or has been influential, then he's probably done a design for them.
Oh wow.
But yeah, that's a great question. It can be tough. It can be tough for sure. And this year I've really been trying to, while we're not touring right now, kind of work as much as possible. And then hopefully, once the new record comes out, we've got some tours lined up, and then we can take a break from the 9 to 5 and just hit the band as hard as we can. But yeah, it's time management can be difficult. Sometimes you can't work on music as much as you want to, and sometimes, you know, you got to cancel things, and I think it's just the norm though for anyone making any sort of subculture music these days. It's always a balancing act. In an imperfect world, we'd all be able to just pay $200 a month rent and just make music every day and maybe work a bar shift or two. But definitely out where we live, that's not the reality. But in saying that too, very lucky and feel very blessed to be able to juggle both, and even to have the opportunity to be over here, to have a visa to, you know, follow music it's something that a lot of people try to get, and we were lucky enough to get the band to a stage where we could have a body of work that would get us the boxes ticked from US immigration to get us over here. So yeah, it can be tough, but also knowing that we're here for music is a big pushing factor for me to move forward. And, you know, if I'm having a bad day at work, just remember that the reason I'm here and that this is just a job. And once I close the laptop for the night, then I can kind of get into what I really want to do, which is, you know, make music with my friends.
Right. Now, how do you, I guess, when I write music, I'm a guitar player myself. Trying to learn drums. I'm all over the place. But when it comes down to writing guitar, I have to be in the right mindset. Like, there's got to be like no pressure. There's got to be a lot of a lot of things set in place where I'm just like, all right, it's time to write, and I'm actually going to be productive. For me, that's like literally just sitting in front of like the screen I'm looking at right now and just, you know, hashing out riffs and recording it. Some people do it old school, but I guess for you, what do you do for riff writing?
There's a couple different things for me. I think it really just depends on the situation. In a perfect world, it would definitely be like what you just mentioned, you know, getting into the headspace and just sitting down and having no distractions. But in all honesty, a lot of the time,
Never happened.
we're working under deadlines, yeah. And there was a couple songs in the new record that we kind of cranked out in one or two nights right before we had to actually record them if we wanted to make the deadline that we ended up making. So the record would be out in July. So yeah, it really depends. And it also depends what project I'm writing for as well. Like with Death Bells, Will and I are extremely collaborative because the core members are just us two. We came over in 2018 with the band, and then at the end of a lot of touring, the guys decided that it wasn't for them anymore, and they went back. So then Will and I have kept the fire burning, and lucky enough to get friends to help out with the live show and come in to record some parts if we need assistance. But yeah, usually if I'm writing for Death Bells and I have time, I don't usually like to listen to much other music, to be honest. I kind of just like to clear my head a bit and really sit with stuff. And usually we'll just demo into a computer or voice memo and then send it over to Will, and we'll see how it goes, sketch it out. And the plan for the next album is to write everything before we start recording in the studio. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, it's a funny thing writing music, and also writing as well, just, you know, writing words, because I do that all day. The headspace really determines everything, doesn't it? Like, I think if I'm going into something a little stressed, then the output might be a little stressy, and maybe I'll be, you know, the key of the song I decide to write in might be a bit sad, or it might be a bit more. It might be a bit more moody, so to speak. Less happy days. but that's why music's so beautiful too, and I think creating is so beautiful, and it's what I live for, because there's no right way to do it, there's no wrong way to do it. And I'm sure there's been many songs we've written that we weren't even trying to write a song, we were just mucking around at practice, or we were just hanging out, and it just goes from there. And I think that just being able to have the opportunity and being able to just use your brain and think for yourself and kind of create something, no matter what the scale is, no matter whether you're writing music, no matter whether you're writing poems, you're writing lyrics, whether you're sharing that with anyone or you're keeping it, in your bedroom. I think it's all special, and people who create and kind of have that in their brain to want to do that and follow through on it. I think it's amazing. So I'm always trying to think positively like that. If I'm having a bad day where I'm just being like, man, why can't I write this song? I can feel it. It wants to come out of me, but it's not happening. I got to think back and just be grateful that I can even kind of comprehend everything that's going on,
Yeah, and like I think it's kind of funny, like, because what I got out of that, I'm thinking of like a saying somebody told me a long time ago. Like some of the worst produced albums that have emotion are usually the most memorable. Like, let's put it this way. Jimi Hendrix, bro, he didn't have Pro Tools. He didn't have this, that, the other thing. Like, he had emotion.
right?
Like, and I think that's the special thing about music nowadays. Like social media, everything's out there. Everybody knows everything about this, that, the other thing. But like, at the end of the day, it's really up to like your imagination. And like, I guess money can have some type of impact on, getting into the studio. But other than that, like, you could feel it in the music. Like if somebody's having, like you said, like a bad day or a good day,
Yeah,
it'll just be there.
I
And
totally agree. And I think that also now there's no excuses. Everyone, you can download, Reaper's free. You can get an interface for $50 off Craigslist. You can, there's nothing really holding anyone back. And I think that's one cool thing that, I like we said earlier, I'm not the biggest proponent of continuously pushing yourself and on Instagram every hour posting new things. But one of the great things about this generation is that the accessibility is, it can't even compare. Even to when I was a teenager, there was still Pro Tools and there was still GarageBand and Logic, but now it's like it's even more accessible, which is so fantastic. And I think it's
like nowadays you can buy literally like an adapter, like for your phone.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard like iGig or whatever?
Yeah, I know that stuff is crazy. And I was just thinking that, now we're unpacking this a bit more, that the whole hyperpop and emo trap and that type of music, I feel like that wouldn't exist without the accessibility that we have in the modern day, because it's
right.
That music is in some way a lot, it's very, I wouldn't say simple, but it can be made very quickly, and the formulas are very, they're very simple to understand for anyone, mostly, I would say. So that's how a lot of people are getting into making music now, is, just writing a 2-minute song with a beat that's looped and then spitting some vocals over the top of it or whatever. And I think that's great. I think it's awesome that music's not the gatekeeping, so to speak, compared to past generations.
You don't have to be fucking Motley Crue level anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
or you don't have to come from a bunch of money or have like rich parents to buy you studio time, or meet your mum's best friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Being the manager, and they've been managing bands for 50 years, or
So with having you and Will, like obviously the core members of this project, how would you say this has impacted like the progression of this project? Like, for example, like I've had a band in the past. There was 5 of us, and it didn't last that long because, just simple clashing of like personalities and this, that, the other thing. You know how it goes. But with two people making the decisions, I feel like you guys can make a lot more moves in your end.
Yeah, I think it just, I met Will when he was 18 when we first started Death Bells. I think the first day I ever met him was the day before we had our first practice, and I was watching one of his other projects play a show back in Sydney. And since then, he's my best friend now, and we've been able to really get to know each other on a level of songwriting that makes things pretty, there's always going to be some pushback. You can't always expect to be stoked on everyone's ideas. And I think you need to also reassess if you are stoked on everyone's ideas, because maybe you need to challenge yourself a bit more. But it definitely helps with, getting ideas together, and kind of, sometimes less cooks in the kitchen can be better.
Right.
And then, yeah, we're so thankful and lucky that our friends in LA with us here, on the latest record, we've got some violins playing from one of our friends, Lena, it just really, really made those songs. And we've got some piano from our good friend Ari. And another thing, like, yeah, if we didn't have access to those friends who are willing to come and lend us a hand, I think the songs would turn out not as good. But it definitely does streamline things for sure. And being in the past with the band when there was, 5, sometimes 6 people, more opinions usually mean more drama. And
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
yeah,
Do you think that today, if there were 6 people in the band, where do you think you would be with the band in general? Like right now, since the beginning of the project to right now, there were 6 people. Do you think that you would have recorded the amount of stuff that you've done, music videos?
that's a great question.
Or do you think the band would just be demolished? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty close to demolished at one stage with 6 people. So I don't know, especially making the move too. I think, it was tough. It was really hard to move, across the world to play in a band where, it's subculture music, and, we're not selling out stadiums. We're grinding. We're still grinding, and that was a choice we made, and we knew what we were getting ourselves into, but it can be really hard. And I think that what happened needed to happen for Will and I to keep Death Bells going, because with 5 or 6 other people, yeah, everyone's just got other stuff going on, especially when you're in your early 20s. Like, I'm 27 now, and
oh shit, you're only 27. I'm
Yeah,
22.
I'm 27.
I'll be 23.
Will's even younger than me. And we moved here 4 years ago now, so we were very early 20s when we moved here.
Wait, you said your brother's how old?
Oh, Will. No, Will. Sorry.
Will. Sorry.
Yeah, he's. I think he's 25. I might be wrong. I think he's 2 years younger.
Fuck, dude.
Or 3 years.
You guys left pretty young then.
Yeah. I kind of had a habit of that, honestly. I finished school, and then I moved to Brisbane in Australia to study, and then I ended up in Leeds in England for a little bit, and then I ended up back at home, and then to Sydney, and now I'm here. And yeah, this is the longest I've lived somewhere since I was a teenager, which is really funny to think about.
Now is it like, so when you moved here, how old were you two?
Oh, I would have been 24. So yeah, I'm 28 this year. So this is year 4. So I think Will was 21 or 22.
So getting to the United States, was it an easy process, or did they, give you a hard time? Like, did they ask you, what are you coming here for? Or?
No, that's a great story. So we actually, we did a tour. We toured the United States when we had one EP out that we released ourselves, and then Funeral Party Records, based out of Louisville, did a US pressing for us. And that tour was, it was a DIY tour. I'll leave it at that. And then the next time we came back with visas. to do South by Southwest, we just had a visa so we could play those shows from memory. And while we were back in Australia after that, we had an email in our junk email that we didn't see for months, and that was actually to this day still our booking agent, Natasha, and it all just kind of snowballed from there. So who knows what would have happened if we didn't check those junk emails and it would have disappeared. You know how they disappear after 90 days or something like that?
Yeah.
So I think it was just under 90 days, but yeah, after that we were like, man, like this is a great opportunity. And
So she said to move?
well, she just said, hey, like I want to book your band over here. Like what are your plans? And then we kind of had in a nutshell, this was a conversation that lasted for a long time, but we decided that let's go for it. Like, what do we have to lose? We're so young. At that time in Sydney, there was girlfriends and there was jobs and stuff, but it was like, not many people get the chance from Australia so young to get a visa to go over and, see what happens. So we just took that opportunity, and it was tough. Of course, missing family, missing friends, a big life move. Relationships changed forever in some capacities, but I think it's worked out pretty good for us. I think we're gonna keep it going over here for the next how long knows, who knows. But yeah, the plan is to stay here moving forward, and yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's kind of a funny story that not many people know about. That's how we ended up here, because we had a junk email from Natasha and she was able to help us with getting visas. But yeah, it's expensive too, getting immigration lawyers and getting all the paperwork is insane. You need letters kind of saying that you're, quote unquote, well known in the music industry, which is like, what does that even mean? It's
what the fuck does that mean?
yeah,
Elvis
it's
Presley?
so subjective. So I remember the first time we had to do those letters, we were just
wait a second. You have to be well known to move here because of music?
Well, our visa right now is an O1 visa, so the O stands for outstanding, I believe. So
what the fuck?
Yeah, it's really it's really laborious, and we were just asking our friends who are way more successful than us, hey, can you write us letters saying that we're better than what we are, or we're more notable? And then the visa the process takes into consideration like press you've had and all that fun stuff.
Wait,
Yeah.
So what do they base the popularity of your band off of? Like social media status, listeners?
I don't think so, because if that was the case, we definitely wouldn't have been allowed to come over.
It's very odd.
Yeah, it is.
YouTube views.
Yeah,
like,
I don't. Fuck? Yeah. I don't know. I don't know the exact reasons why, but I think a lot of it is to do with if you show that you need to be here for a prolonged period of time, so we would come with like tour itineraries being like, hey, this is how much we're touring, we need to be here, and we're working, and then you got to pay the taxes and all that fun stuff.
Well, I'm glad it worked out for you guys, because like every visa story I've ever been told is like, I'll tell you a little small story. Exhumed, they're a metal band from California. They went overseas, and the guy brought like a bullet belt, and
that was a bad
he ended
move.
up going. He ended up going to jail because of it, and he lost his visa. He lost like everything. He didn't get to play the show. But in general, I just haven't heard good things about visas. Like,
yeah,
it's just a process.
It's tough, and also it in March 2020, someone's visa was running out, and he had to go back to Australia to get a new one. And Will also went at the same time as me, but for some reason his processed a little faster, and he was able to get a flight out. But I was in Sydney, and when I was in Sydney, that's when the US consulate closed. So I was stuck in Australia without a visa, and then I had to get an emergency appointment. And rush a bunch of letters to then try get back to the States, because this is right after we recorded New Signs of Life and we had to film music videos and all that fun stuff. And then I couldn't get out of Australia, so I was stuck. I was supposed to be home for 2 weeks, and I was stuck for nearly 2 months. And if the visa people would have processed my visa the same day they processed Will's, and I would have been out of there and avoided that situation. So a lot of our lives the last few years have revolved around the U.S. immigration services, for better or for worse.
That's crazy, man. I read a book about this singer called Randy Blythe, and he talked about he went to prison for basically he went overseas to play a show, and somebody jumped off the stage, and they accused him of murder for like pushing him. And so when he came back to the country, they brought him to jail. But the problem was they didn't have a translator. So this dude goes to jail, and he couldn't talk to anybody because nobody understood like English. And it's just kind of odd to me where, those type of services are just so hard,
Yeah.
Like if you get in trouble in a different country, like you're telling me they don't have a translator on speed dial? Like what?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. It's thankfully we haven't had to deal with anything like that, but even, sometimes getting over and getting back. Even, I mean, the stories about every band has trying to get into Canada, or even, if you're steaming up the coast to play a show in Vancouver, it can be sometimes not even worth it because you've got to wait for so long, and the taxes of the merch you're bringing in and taking out and getting hassled if someone's had a bad day. It's we're at the mercy of
it's kind of fun.
The borders.
It's funny you say that, man, because I was just in Canada like a month ago, and I had a bad day at work, and I said that to the guy when I was going across the border, and I swear to fucking God, he thought I was like gonna shoot up the country or something, because he pulled me out of the car, he like questioned me, he's like, did you hurt anybody before you came here? I'm like, no, like I had a bad day at work, I just want to come to Canada. Like Canada is very tough.
Yeah. What's funny too is we've had a lot of issues going into Texas before too with the I don't exactly know what they're called, but the Texas Border Patrol.
Okay.
I remember one fond evening. It was summer. It was a summer night, extremely late at night actually, around 3:30 in the morning if I'm remembering correctly, and we got pulled over at the stop, and a bunch of Australians driving a minivan. They wanted us to all get out. We were like, all right. Then they get the dogs out to search the van. And,
oh my God.
Will had he had a purple shampoo. I think he had blonde hair at the time. And one of the dogs knocked over the shampoo in the back seat. And not in the back seat, sorry, on the floor of the van where all the gear was. And it made quite a mess. And we were asking the fine fellows of the Texas Border Patrol, hi, like, can you help us with that? Or like, what can we do? And they just kind of looked at us and gave us like the most pitiful amount of paper towel you've ever seen in your life. And then they were like, okay, you guys are good to go. And we're like, thank you. I'm so glad the tax dollars are going to this,
Yeah, you get like
getting your dogs to like
ply.
Yeah, like spilling like this thick purple shampoo over. God knows what it spilt over, but yeah, it definitely killed the mood for sure.
Wow.
So hopefully on our next run, we will not have to deal with any dogs knocking over shampoo bottles.
Are you planning on coming to Niagara Falls-ish area or no?
So we have a record coming out in July on Deus. Okay. Between Here and Everywhere is the title, and for the first time ever, I'm so excited and feel so grateful that we have this opportunity. But literally, I think it's 3 days after the record drops, we're hitting the road and we're doing a full US. So all of August, we're going to be on the road. I think the closest we get is, I think it's Toronto. I don't think we're going to Buffalo or.
That's not far.
Yeah. So yeah, extremely excited for that. And it's been a long time since we've played shows on the East Coast as well. I think the last time we played shows over there was 2018. So really excited to get back over, and yeah, we're gonna head out and then take September off, and then October we're doing the all of October over in Europe for the first time, which is another kind of, with music and goals in music, I think it can be sometimes a bit I think it's a bit much and a bit stressful to put lofty goals on what you can achieve, because music's so subjective and you never know what's going to hit or what's not going to hit. But something I've always wanted to do was do a Europe tour. So we were lucky enough to do the UK in February for the first time, and I'm so excited for October to play some countries that I've never been before. And I've heard that it's a lot easier to tour Europe because there's usually accommodation at the venue and there's usually some food going around. So, and we'll have a driver, I think. So I'm really looking forward to.
It sounds decent. That
Yeah,
sounds like a decent
looking
tour.
forward to it. Just hopefully, just playing music, and that's all I have to worry about.
smooth sailing.
Yeah, for the first time in my quote unquote music career, I can just play music for a month. But yeah, that'll be really fun. I'm really excited for that, and I can speak on behalf of Will too, that he's really excited to kind of get out there and play some new songs that we've had kicking around for a while, and for a lot of people too, because New Sons of Life, that album came out during the pandemic. It'll be the first time we're able to play those songs to a whole bunch of people, because we've only toured the West Coast since that record came out. So
yeah, people have released fucking 3 albums since like the pandemic. It's crazy because like bands come out with a whole freaking discography now.
Yeah.
Within those 2 years, 3
yeah,
years.
one of my good friends, Ian, he has a band called Military Gun, and he started the band during COVID, and since then they hit the road pretty much as soon as they were able to, and they're killing it. They've been playing all over. It's funny how it can work that way.
Off.
Yeah, or just like, if you're conscious about your time and you really want to do something, it's amazing what you can make happen if that's what you really, really want to do.
Right.
And
totally.
And I feel very lucky that I've got a lot of people inspiring me in my life right now that are pushing me to do more. Like this past week, I had some buddies from this band Provoker stay over with me. They're based in the Bay Area, and we toured with them in November, and they were in town, writing songs with people, and I was like, oh man, this is so good to be around this environment, to get inspired in that way, and kind of, no pressure, but just give me a little push to kind of maybe, instead of just watching whatever show on HBO, I can get the guitar out or get the synth out and work on some stuff.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I mean, I feel like if it was my full-time job to make art, it would be a totally different experience, because I don't know. When it comes to music, I get anxiety real easy, and I like get very like conscious of like, oh, this riff sounds like this guy. This riff sounds like that girl. But I don't know. I feel like having the time off and not being so absorbed with the music, like in a live setting, is helpful.
Yeah, I ebb and flow really. Like, I think it really just depends on the situation. I've come back from some tours sometimes, and I've been so inspired to just write more and get the ball rolling. And sometimes I don't even want to look at a guitar for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah,
and that's the same, with balancing a day job. Sometimes you just get crushed at work, and you're so busy, or you might mess up something, or something doesn't go your way, and that for some people that can kind of suck the life out of them in their personal time. But I try to, as much as possible, put that behind me, and remember why I'm here, and remember that I live the lifestyle, and I choose to live the lifestyle I do, juggling, taking on a lot of work and then stopping that work to then go on tour and then picking work back up. I do that because I'm here for music. So I kind of try to use that as my motivator if I'm ever feeling like, I just really don't want to make anything this week. I try to think back to that. And now this conversation, I'm publicly held accountable on the record. So if anybody hears me complaining about not feeling inspired, they can call me a hypocrite and tell me to listen to the podcast.
You need to listen to the podcast that you recorded. You inspired me, but you're not inspired. What the hell, man? That's funny.
I'm sure I have some friends that will do that.
All right, so I'd like to wrap this up by saying thank you. This podcast has been great. I took a long break from doing podcasts, like many months, and this is definitely an entrance back into doing more. So thanks for making this a good one.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you for the enlightening conversation. I'm always my friends. I think everyone who knows me personally would say that I come off, I think, a little shy to people who don't know me, but I'm really a chatterbox, especially talking about anything creative or the making of things. You know, it's something that I can talk about forever. So, thank you for the chat, and I feel lucky that we could converse in this way and talk about some cool ideas and share some stories. And
yeah, when the new record comes out, you have to get back on it. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, would love to.
We'll go real in depth with it. So the last thing is, I pay to have my artist draw like custom artwork. Is there a specific object that you think represents your band that he could draw within the cover? One object.
A single object to describe Death Bells.
Yes.
Oh, that's a fantastic question. I think for everyone else besides me, it would probably be some type of alcohol, but I don't drink. What would be for both of us? You know what I think it would be? I think it would be a constant from the beginning of Death Bells to now has been reverb. I think maybe a reverb pedal.
Okay.
Or a delay pedal.
I was gonna say that's good. A big thing of booze. People be like, "Damn, this band like just drinks a lot."
Yeah,
like,
no. That's a great question though. It's trying to think of motifs and physical objects that summarize the soundtrack to my 20s from growing up. Really, it's I think I'll be pondering that for a while. Maybe next episode I'll have a better answer.
Okay, a reverb pedal. What let's dive deep into that real quick. What reverb pedal is it? Well, which one do you usually use? Because I use the carbon copy. That's my choice.
A thing about me that not many people probably know is that my pedal board right now, I think I bought one pedal on there for $20 off Amazon that was a tuner, and somehow everything else has been gifted to me, or I've quote unquote borrowed from friends and never given back. I honestly don't even know the name of the reverb pedal I have right now. I used a Hall of Fame for a long time.
Oh shit! I was about to say, because that's my other one.
Yeah, for the first LP, Standing at the Edge of the World, a lot of that the lead guitar sound on that was definitely drenched in the Hall setting on the Hall of Fame.
That's a great pedal, man.
Yeah, it is. That it broke though. I've still got it here, but yeah, it's just sitting. It's just in pedal abyss right now in my cupboard. And then after that, I had an RV7 for a while. I think it's a Digitech. I might be wrong, but
I think is that purple?
It's a red one. I think a lot of the shoegaze heads, use it for the reverse reverb effect on it. But that is not me. It was just used, for a bit of texture, and then right now Jeff, who has a wonderful band called Number, we actually swapped one day at practice. He was like, "Hey, you should try use this," and so he's got my reverb pedal and I have his, and I think it's a reverb and delay, like a 2-in-1 unit, but I have no idea what brand it is or what it's called.
Yeah, I looked up the RV7. I've never seen this pedal ever before. So
Yeah, I actually bought that one when I was living in Leeds. I s- I know we're wrapping up here, but a quick little end point is that when Death Bells first started, the idea of Death Bells first started. I was living over in England, and I kind of agreed to, yeah, I'd love to play guitar, when I'm back, and I could fly to Sydney because I wasn't going to be living in Sydney at the time. I was going to be living back at home with my parents until I finished my degree, and I kind of agreed to the band and said I was down, but I didn't really know how to play guitar, so one of the first things I did was buy a guitar over there and get a couple pedals and yeah, learn learn how to play guitar.
or to learn how to play the pedals, because that's what I did.
Yeah, learn how to play the pedals, especially
The
back in
fucking
those
wah
days.
pedal, man. The wah
Yeah.
pedal makes you sound like the next Kirk from Metallica, man. Like,
yeah, that's true. Learning kind of how to hide my absolute lack of technical skill and ability behind layers of delay and reverb. And you can hear that on the first EP for sure.
oh man.